All right, welcome everyone to the Culinary Podcast. My name is Matt Britt.
And I'm Jaime Schick.
And today we are joined by Bridget Hegarty, who is the Director of Public Health for Amtrak, kind of a massive role. And we brought her on, you were actually on way back in the day when we first started this project, but now you're doing bigger things. And we wanted to talk a little bit about how Cyclospora and the sort of the outbreak in the US has sort of impacted the food system, how we consume, how we trust where we get our food from, what we can take away from that outbreak. So first off, welcome to the pod again.
Thanks for having me. And it's not bigger and better things, man. I miss being at JWO. That was fun.
I didn't say better. I just said bigger.
Okay.
I just said bigger. And no question, Amtrak is bigger. So obviously, I want to give you a little bit of a chance to touch base on, or just give us a little update on what you're doing with Amtrak, but also kind of give us a little bit of a 101 on Cyclospora and how that impacted sort of your world on a kind of broad view.
Sure. So again, thanks for having me. Hello, guys. Miss you all. So here at Amtrak, I am the Director of Public Health, where we support 46 states plus Canada. So if you can imagine, we are not in 4 states. Which 4 states are we not in?
I didn't know there was going to be a pop quiz.
I'm going to say...
I'll let you percolate on that. How about that? I'll let you think about that.
I'm going to say Oklahoma, somewhere in the Midwest.
No, it got to be Hawaii.
Why? Why wouldn't we be in Hawaii? I'll let you think on that while we talk about what else we do. We support 46 states plus Canada. Definitely not Hawaii and Alaska. And Midwest is very close, Jamie. Very, 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 very good. But we are in Oklahoma, and we do food safety, water quality, water safety, pest control, trash, recycling, all the good things that no one really thinks about. It's almost like a health department on the train. So all the fun things that everyone loves about the municipalities.
South Dakota and Wyoming, by the way. I mean, how would you know that? How would you know that?
Oh my God, you cheated? That's not fair.
Well, we bust, but yes, we're not there yet. Maybe someday, but yes. But yes, so food safety is obviously a huge key component of our role here with public health at Amtrak, because we do serve food in all of these areas. We serve food in our lounge cars, our cafe cars, and our long distance cars, where we do serve salads. And as we all have heard, Cyclospora has been very heavily impacted to our ready-to-eat produce items. Cyclospora is not a new illness. We typically do see it this time of year because it does impact raw produce. And I'm sure you may have seen a lot of the recommendations are to cook your produce to reduce your likelihood of having contracting this illness. And I'm not sure if you guys cook your salad. I typically am not in the habit of cooking anything ever, as you both know. I'm not sure if your listeners know, but I do not cook. But I'm not sure that I was going to cook my bagged lettuce ever. But yes, so cooking is definitely a preventative mechanism to reduce the likelihood of Cyclospora. But the challenge here is that it is naturally occurring. It does typically occur again in the summer and the spring months. And we always do see this sort of seasonal influx. But right now we are seeing a huge, huge wave of this type of illness. Jamie, did you have something?
Oh, whenever you were.
No, go ahead. You're good.
You were ready. I was gonna go off of what you said, that like Cyclospora is not new, and you were kind of touching on what I was thinking. Is I feel like whether it's this or something else, there's always some type of outbreak happening, and a lot of times we see large chains affected by it. And there's so many different outbreaks that can happen, and it kind of popped in my head that maybe you can talk a little bit about why we're seeing so many large outbreaks so regularly versus like, maybe not so much in the winter, but like there was a huge one years ago. It was norovirus. But like, why do these continually pop up?
So a couple different things, right? So we're better at finding them than we were 25, 30 years ago, right? So as our science has evolved, our technology has evolved, we're better at looking for and finding these things. So 30 years ago, we didn't know what we didn't know, right? We weren't testing for these types of pathogens. We did not have these policies and procedures in place. We were not doing these types of high-level routine testing, even at farms, prior to these products going out into industry. So that didn't exist. So we weren't looking for these things prior to supplier approval. Now we're actually, before our kitchens are receiving a lot of these items, we're doing supplier verification programs that these are going out for routine analysis prior to even leaving the farm stand, right? Or not farm stand, but leaving their manufacturing facility. We never did that before. So now we're looking for things. The more we look, the more we're going to find, right? And also, we're just much more aware. I mean, you both came up through the industry. We know that 30 years ago, people were working on the line, throwing up in buckets, right? That was par for the course, right? And that was a huge risk for norovirus, right? It didn't matter if you were sick, you were working, right? It didn't matter if you were dying, you were working on the line. And now we know that norovirus is spread through that type of illness, right? So you should not be working when you're sick. And the difference between norovirus and cyclospora is that cyclospora is not spread person to person, where norovirus is, right? So it's not that same level of infectivity. The other stark difference between noro and cyclo is that the level of infectious rate or shedding is much different. So norovirus, when you're sick with norovirus, you're shedding like a billion trillion, what's an exaggeration, but you're shedding a lot of that when you're sick with norovirus. Whereas cyclospora, if you're infected with cyclospora, you're only shedding like 5 or 6 oocytes. So it's really, really difficult to pinpoint and trace down if you have it or if you're infected with it. So it's hard to find, which is part of the reason why it's been very difficult for the FDA to actually pinpoint what the actual source is. And also, who keeps produce for 1 million years? By the time they've figured out what it could have been, it's already been first in, first out. It's been discarded. It's gone. It's, that ship has sailed. So it's hard to sort of navigate and figure out what that could have been theoretically. So that's why sort of this investigation has sort of been ongoing and sort of lagged and sort of continued in the way that it continued. Michigan has been the epicenter. And as we all sort of heard, Taco Bell has sort of been front and center as well. And Taco Bell actually went above and beyond a little bit and sort of came out and sort of pulled back some of their items on their own. So they did a voluntary recall. And that's, well, not a voluntary recall, but they came out ahead and they pulled their own items ahead of time. What are your thoughts on that? Because we don't typically see that. So I'm curious, as industry professionals, what you guys think about that.
I mean, about Taco Bell in general, or just like...
Well, both. How about both?
No, I mean, I think it's what you want to see from such a massive entity in the food service industry, is to say, hey, we have a problem. We're going to change. And I enjoyed reading all like the threads of people losing their mind that the Crunchwrap Supreme no longer came with lettuce. But like, I think that that's a responsible response or action taken on that company. I can't imagine like how many, it's probably amazing how fast they were able to do it given how large that organization is. So I kind of give them credit in pulling that together so quickly. But I don't know if it's enough. I think it's responsible, I guess. But again, I'm not 100% sure all the details on that.
I mean, I also think it's responsible, but I also, whenever these happen at large chains, I'm always shocked because in my head, you think a large chain, there's got to be so many food safety measures put in place to avoid this happening, because we know that like how many people don't eat at, Chipotle anymore or whatever it might be. And I feel like it's, to me, it's always crazy when large chains are the source or affected by this, because of what I assume are all these like safety measures. But I know people are people and they're going to do people things. But is lettuce like just really susceptible to carrying these types of illnesses? Because I feel like it's always the darn lettuce.
Go ahead, Matt. What were you going to say?
Well, no, I mean, I want you to respond to Jamie's question, because, and I think my response, and maybe you can add that to the lettuce, is because lettuce is so raw and there's so much, the cooking is not necessarily, unless you're grilling romaine for a Caesar, which is so rare, like it is probably more vulnerable than other items that would be processed or cooked. My question to you, Bridget, is, Jamie mentioned Chipotle, and I still eat Chipotle, but I know there are a lot of people that don't. Do you think that this outbreak of Cyclospora will have the same sort of lasting impact on like a Taco Bell than E. coli did on like a Chipotle? I mean, knowing that our memories are so like goldfish these days, do you think this is going to really impact them long term?
Two things. I don't, only because I think that Um, the challenge with Chipotle was that Chipotle had a little bit of everything that year. Like 2015 was like Chipotle's like, oh my goodness, this is like the war. Like literally, they had Noro, they had Salmonella, they had E. coli. They had like, if you build it, they will come. Literally from like Seattle to like Boston when they had the Boston College outbreak. Remember when the basketball team like it was like they had to shut down the Beacon Hill one. Like so, I think Chipotle just had like a really bad year and I'm still a little bit salty about it, obviously. And I still haven't eaten at Chipotle, but the kids do. And I know Chipotle's put in great measures, and I'm being a wicked hypocrite. You can go on the record here because, you know, things change, people change. Like I totally get that. And I know they've done great things and they've done amazing things. And I'm sure you could probably eat off the floor at Chipotle and everything is hunky dory, but it's still just like embedded in my brain, like no Chipotle, like, you know, no ambassador, like no party. I mean, no Scotland, no party. We changed the slogan at Amtrak for that, but like literally, like I just can't do it in my head right now. But I feel like Cyclospora, because it's like cyclical, it's very, very, and it's also not the same level of, I mean, it's getting this high level of notoriety, but it's diarrhea, right? Like I know that sounds gross, and I always tell people like I'm a really good time at parties. Like I'll talk about like cockroaches, like you know I'm a good time. Diarrhea, vomiting, I'm your girl, right? But like at the end of the day, unless you have like a really underlying like health condition, most people are going to be okay. Yes, it's disgusting. Yes, it's embarrassing, but you're most likely going to be okay after a couple of rounds of dying in the bathroom, quote unquote, dying in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like E. coli, no, like no joke. Salmonella, no, right? Like you can be completely healthy, go in with E. coli, and you're not completely healthy anymore. You're going to have secondary health conditions for the rest of your life. Like that's terrible. It's a completely different, in my mind. And again, this is just you know Bridget Hegarty's take on you know Cyclospora versus you know whatever else. Also, back to sort of the lettuce challenge here. I think a couple things. I think we've become this sort of society, you know easy, right? We want easy. We're all really busy. We want whatever is easier for us. Like I'm a huge culprit of bag. Like I prefer bagged lettuce. Actually, I preferred bagged chopped. Not even romaine because I'm super lazy. Like I like chopped iceberg lettuce because I'm super lazy and basic, right? And it says right on the bag, like, do not rewash your lettuce. Why do we not want you to rewash your lettuce? Because when you rewash already quadruple, triple wash lettuce, you might recontaminate it in the sink, right? But if it's contaminated in the bag, you're going to recontaminate it anyway, right? But if you buy whole heads of lettuce and then you wash it properly, you know, you remove that outer layer, you know, outer couple of layers, and then you wash it, you're going to reduce your likelihood of cyclospora. Most people are not buying whole heads of lettuce anymore, right? They're going to that bagged method. And that bagged pre-cut method is where we're seeing that higher level, that higher incident of that, of the bacteria, of the contamination. But even like to your point, Matt, like grilled romaine, is that going to hit that temperature threshold of 157 for, is that going, I mean, I don't know. Is that, does that really count as cooking? If you're just grilling it are you just grilling it for color? Are we grilling it?
Probably not. I
Cooking
mean,
it? Is it, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I don't, whenever I see like, oh, cook your, I'm like, oh, what does cooked lettuce really look like? Like, what is that?
It is a thing. It is a
Are we taking
thing.
our thermocline and we're probing it to make sure? I don't know. Like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't know. Are we cooking raspberries too? Like, what's happening here? So it makes me like giggle a little bit, but at the same, and again, like the other extreme though, and I'll never forget the first year I taught in person, the HACCP class, one of the students was like, oh no, we wash our chicken in bleach. And I was like, oh, my heart, like, but that's what's happening. People are going the other way and they're taking their produce and they're washing their produce in like bleach because they don't want cyclospora. Oh no, please don't do that. That's not helpful either because now you're introducing this whole other level of stuff to your body. Please don't wash your produce in bleach. That's not helpful. I'd much rather you have like diarrhea than these other toxins, but hey, you know, to each their own, I guess. But that's kind of where we're at. Like, what level of risk are we willing to take? And I don't know that I don't have a great answer. I mean, we want people to continue to be healthy, right? We're like, oh, and I'm sure you've seen the memes, right?
Yeah.
Like I got through COVID, I got through this, I got through all these things, and now, you know, produce is going to kill me with this explosive diarrhea. Like, no, that's not.
You're talking about washing your produce, and there's a lot of sprays on the market, like produce wash sprays, that lots of people sell them. Are those effective against something like this, or not really?
Not really. The consensus is not really. I think it's more of like a gimmick. A lot of it is for like color. I think it makes people feel better. People use like vinegar for, cleaning like cutting boards, things of that nature. The recommendation is typically no. It's usually, water and like a vegetable brush. And I know you can't like brush like soft berries, things of that nature, but usually it's like the vigorous motion of the water. And again, removing those outer layers of the lettuce is usually the most effective. Again, it's not 100% guaranteed, but it is going to reduce that likelihood.
Yeah. It's, you mentioned healthy and you want people to be healthy. My fear on this is that, okay, look at like Taco Bell, is the lettuce is probably one of the only healthy things on that taco, right? And that's not just Taco Bell, that's any taco. It's like the lettuce is the nutrition in theory, I guess if there's tomatoes. I feel that this type of outbreak could, and I was with people last weekend where they're like, oh, I'm just giving up lettuce. And I'm like, no, don't give up lettuce. Like, don't get like, buy whole heads of lettuce. Like buy from a reputable source, go from a local farm. Like, I know that's very like chef preachy, but like, that's my fear, is that like people will omit something because of this that they should not necessarily omit altogether.
I agree with that 100%. And I've been inundated. I think everyone I know and everyone I know knows I don't cook, which is funny in of itself. But I must have more pictures of like bagged lettuce mixes across the entire country right now. Like, should I eat this? I just bought this. I'm like, well, I can't read the label. Like, what country is it from? And I'm like, why am I? I'm like, I don't know. Just eat it. Like, I don't know. But same thing. I'm like, just don't eat it and buy like a whole head of lettuce. Like, just buy. That's been my response to everything. Buy a whole head. Like, buy a whole head of lettuce. Like, just buy a whole head. Like, just wash the whole head. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, just chop it for now. Like, just don't.
I've been
buy
living on the edge all these weeks eating salad, so I'm still here.
But that, like, back to your point, Matt, it's like, yes, like stay healthy. Like, go back to like a whole head of lettuce really isn't that difficult, is it? I mean, for me, I'm like, yes, it is, but I'll do it.
Yeah. No, but I do think that, I mean, you mentioned earlier that like it's just diarrhea, and that sounds like
I
that
know it
should be the
sounds
title.
terrible.
Jamie, mark that. That's the title of the episode. But like I do feel, and I'm going to pivot here a little bit, but I am going to bring it back. I do feel that because Cyclospora is cyclical and there's always cases, although yes, Michigan blew up. I think that a lot of people are latching this outbreak onto other sort of beliefs, right? Call them political or call them whatever. It's like, well, if we didn't cut this, I mean, but I do think that that's not also not healthy from a different sort of health standpoint, because I know that, to what you mentioned earlier, the reason we're able to identify these things quicker is because of interagency communication, which I think is helpful. So I think there's two sides to that coin, no matter how you look at it. My question to you is, like, what lessons do we take from this? Is it we need to rethink about how lettuce is harvested and sort of, are we implementing food safety practices more rigorously there? Is it more, awareness and scrutiny on what we're purchasing? How, like in the fallout of this, like, what can we take from it?
I think the challenge, it's like twofold, right? So there's definitely lessons to be learned upon our surveillance system, regardless. Part of it is because of the methodology of how we detect certain. So, because of the nature of this particular detection, we can't use what we call whole genome sequencing. So, whole genome sequencing is like literally like a fingerprint. This particular bacteria does not allow for like the whole fingerprint. So you have to do like portions of it. So it did actually create like a false positive in the laboratory. So FDA false positively identified, and it sent out a recall notification over the weekend. And that did create this sort of weird notice with Taylor Farms. And then Taylor Farms kind of was like, haha, not it. It's still you, Taylor Farms, like no offense, but there's still some responsibility here. So the complexity of the actual illness is one piece. The complexity of our recall system is another piece that the FDA has been working very, very diligently on. It's just very complex, and the challenges are they're never ending, to be honest. Our traceability is very, very difficult, whether it is produce, whether it is a final packaged item. Our level of traceability is not where it should be. And there is movement within the Food Safety Modernization Act for us to update that with like KPI. There's a lot of things happening in that space, but there's a lot of challenges for industry and small mom and pops and other types of retailers to meet that requirement. So there's a weird push and pull right now for that to come into fruition. And it's just taking a really long time, which means that until that comes into full fruition, we're going to continue to see these weird nuances of things not working as they should. As far as regulatory, we're very fragmented. The FDA has gone through a series of shuffling and reorganization, and they're doing the best they can with what they have, but they're understaffed as well. And it's difficult when you're going with products that are across the border, different countries coming, and even like supplier verification. Even when it's in the United States, supply verification can be very difficult. I mean, when we were at Johnson & Wales, right, we used approved suppliers, and we did a case study on a very large supplier that was approved in the United States that was using bad practices and had a huge fine levied against them in millions of dollars because they were using bad practices. So there are going to be bad actors regardless. It's just how do you bring that to the right level, and how do you continuously improve these practices to make sure the end user is better? So as a restaurateur or as an operator, how do you protect yourself against those types of claims is very, very challenging, right? So how do your future chefs and your culinarians create their own internal supplier approval program to prevent this from happening to them, right? So ensuring that they are in fact using an approved supplier, and an approved supplier from the produce world, right? But also verifying that if they are using a Shamrock, a PFG, or a Cisco, that they're not just using them, they're looking beyond that box truck, right? So how are they confirming that their vendors beyond, we're not just saying, oh, you know what, I use Cisco, we're good to go. Well, who is Cisco using? And how are we confirming that whoever Cisco is using is also good? How do we know that whoever we're using through Cisco, what do they call them? Not food buy? No, is that what it is? Food
Purveyors?
Buy? Yeah, no, there's always like a buyback program. Like if we all use them together, we get like extra credit. Not extra credit, but I don't know. There's always some sort of like collaborative buy, almost, I don't know. But there's like extra not points, but you get like extra, not credit, but more, I guess, credit. I don't know. You get more bonus orders or whatever.
Like a price break for like.
Yes, better pricing. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So like but you don't want just like the best pricing. You want to make sure you have the best safety perspective. No. So are you looking at the actual warehousing? So if you're ordering from, I don't know, give me a produce vendor that we have up in the Northeast. I can't think of one.
Katsarubis.
Ooh, have you ever been to Katsarubis?
I have not.
How come?
Because I worked in restaurants in DC.
Oh, okay. Have you been to DC?
But I will tell you, I have been to facilities in DC when I was there, and they were remarkably clean.
Right. And what else are you looking for, though, other than just clean?
Documentation, paperwork.
Yeah. What are you looking for? The documentation, paperwork.
Sourcing, where they got it, dates.
What else?
I really feel under a microscope right now.
I love this.
I know. We are not prepared for this pop quiz. We're asking you the questions.
What should I be looking for?
But again, like documentation, paperwork, right? Are there temperatures required? Is anything cut? I mean, if it's whole uncut produce, then no, we're not worried about that. But is anything, or if it's bagged lettuce, it needs to be below 41 degrees, right? So do we have anything bagged? Right?
So I will say when I go to like any facility, whether it's a produce facility or I think like for some reason cheese pops into my head, I always think what I'm looking for is like systems. Like do people that work there seem like they are following sort of an SOP that is, in line with what best practice should be? So are they wearing the proper PPE? Are they moving in a way that seems, I guess, from an outsider's view, efficient? Are there people walking around checking? I understand that's expensive, but that's the area I'm looking for. It's very visual, but it's also very like comforting to see those sorts of things.
But back to your point, visual is very important, and whether it's efficient or not, the system in place, that's really that's what a food safety management system is, right? It's just
Yeah.
adding all those components together, and it's just whether it's whether it's a standard operating procedure or a sanitation operating procedure, they're all tied in together regardless, right?
That's why I
So
said
whether it's
SOP,
for quality
because
or safety,
you can change, yes.
whether it's for quality or safety, they are linked. So you can always piggyback them together and make them into one big comprehensive system. But if you're going to walk in and do an audit and everyone's running around like a chicken with their head cut off, you're losing value right there, right?
Sure.
And now you know that we're not going into it's not a clean to dirty system, right? Because if people are walking back and forth, and that's where we get a lot of like our listeria cross contamination, is when there is no flow of food. If the flow of food is disrupted, you could have your carts crossing through, and now we're going to have dirty carts going back through, and it's going to impact the clean area. So it just, it's that whole cross contamination piece. So even if people don't know what they're looking for per se, if it looks efficient to them, they know what they're looking for. It's just not maybe aligning in that food safety lens. So
I love the idea of like chefs being able to go and do this, but realistically, let's talk realistically. Today, with staffing being short everywhere, everyone looking for help. Right now, summer, busiest season for a lot of places, especially here in New England. I don't know that chefs have time to go and to each of their purveyors' facilities, and maybe they're not hyper local. Maybe they're coming from like we're in Mass, and maybe they're coming from New York. Right? So it's like, don't these facilities have someone that's their job?
They do, but can't you do a FaceTime? Can't you be like, hey, listen, you're my QA guy. Hey, Chef Jamie, can you just do a quick walkthrough and let me see what you're looking at? And we'll do a quick FaceTime audit. Do. Cool, thanks. I feel good. I saw that. Peace. Maybe.
Technology, man.
Right? I mean, obviously they could be like back and be like, you're only seeing the same thing over and over again. We don't know, but maybe that snapshot is better than, hey, everything's great. It could be better. I mean, maybe. I mean, there is some movement. It's a little different, an occupational space where they're starting to they're using cameras so that if you're doing an occupational safety audit, they're actually strapping the camera here so that the person in the office here can actually see what the person walking through the job site can see. And we can
kind of like a body cam.
Mm-hmm, but not
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
But I also wonder, I mean, and that's awesome, but I wonder if it would be in the interest, and this could go either way, of like a large produce company having sort of live action cameras that they could stream to a website. Because if you were really concerned, I mean, I understand that's a massive sort of cost as far as infrastructure, but if you're truly doing it the right way and you wanted to showcase that as a sales tactic, that also could be something that could put people at ease, especially if they're shopping for a new vendor and they come across that and they see that on their website. It's like, that's a really good way to kind of understand that these people are putting it all out there and they're not afraid of it.
There are a lot of larger scale manufacturing firms that do that. I don't know if a lot of it is for more like liability if there was an incident. But you could probably they could probably tap into that for like a one-time thing. Like, hey, listen, this is our facility. This is what you're looking at. And they also all have like electronic remote monitoring. Like these are our cooler boxes. This is 39, 38. And you can see, all the temperatures, which is what obviously paramount, but it will also give you a quick snapshot like, hey, this is how clean all of our boxes are. This is how clean all this is. This is our sanitation log. This is how we, this is how often we clean. These are our cleaning schedules. So all that is available. So you could probably, or even just like a download, like, hey, here's our electronic cleaning schedule. Like here's our, whatever the case may be. So those tools and those resources should be available. And if you can't do an audit, they should at least give you their written SOPs, their written either HACCP plan or their GMPs or their compliance with the PCQI, which is the preventative controls for qualified individuals. They should always have a written plan. And you should be able to, if you want to do business with them, there might be some things that are confidential or proprietary, but everything else you should be able to reference and say like, hey, listen, it looks like you're not meeting this cold holding requirement. Why? And they might have a reason. And if they explain it, cool. They might not.
No, but I think this is super interesting. And I know that sort of the frame of this conversation was Cyclospora and sort of like the impact but I love how it took, and I kind of knew this would happen because I know you. I knew this would take sort of a food safety turn, but I think that's so much more relevant for the chefs that are working in industry that listen to this, or our students, So I'm glad you were able to share that. And I think that the takeaway for me is that as an operator of a restaurant, whether you're a chef or manager, you should be asking questions for people that work for your schedule. And I love the tip of, hey, let's do a quick FaceTime, because time is a valuable resource in restaurants as chefs, but to do that is a great tip. So I want to say thank you for sharing that.
But I think also, I think even as a vendor, vendors want to know that you as an operator are doing right by their product, right? Because God, they don't want you serving their food and have it be yucky as an end result either, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're showcasing their product
Exactly.
and it's yucky, that's not good for them either. So it's like, it's like a symbiotic like relationship, right? Like you featuring this vendor and it's like, oh, that was terrible. Well, why was it terrible?
Ooh,
Because it
that's a
came in
good.
bad or because you didn't store it, because you both have a responsibility to the end user, right? In my mind, like food safety it's a whole system from soup to not, from farm to fork or whatever phrase we're using now. I don't know how it's changed a million times, but it's a whole system. It's not just when it comes off the truck. It's not just when it goes on the plate, and if you're working in a retail environment, it's not just when it gets to the customer's house. There's just so many pieces to it. And just because Cyclospora is on the news today doesn't mean it's not going to be something else tomorrow, right? And back to your point, Matt, like just because it's on the news now doesn't mean that we should stop eating lettuce, right? There's so much personal responsibility to all of food safety, right? And I feel like this all goes back to, and I think we had talked about this forever ago when I was at J. We don't do a good enough job, like in elementary school, in high school, with our kids, right? Hand washing. How many
Yep.
kids really know how to wash their hands before they come to Johnson and Wales? Let's be real. Your kids do, right?
I hope
But
so.
seriously, right? But like if kids are not washing their hands properly prior to eating, like they're gonna make themselves sick and we're gonna blame everybody else and their mother, right? Like that's just the nature. There are so many little things that we don't do well. Food safety as a whole, like these things that we should be learning just as little humans, right? Storing food properly, putting food away when we get home, not leaving food out on the counter, not thawing food on the counter, not thawing, like not washing chicken before we cook it. Hey, don't even. Just weird things, like just things over time that we've just built up and that have been okay. We've just sort of eradicated from. I took home ec, I think, in like sixth grade and then never again. Again, I don't cook. I know I don't cook. It's fine, right? I let everyone else cook for me. I mean, I clean up really well, though. I'm a really good cleaner upper.
I
But
believe that. I believe that.
but I do think that there's like some personal responsibility piece. But hand washing is huge, and if we don't wash our hands, we own some of that as well. So
It's like if people could just wash their hands really well, I feel like 50% of our foodborne illness problems would go away. People knew how to wash their hands, but also cook your food to the right temperatures, reheat your food to the right temperatures. It's like if you're in an establishment, log your temperatures, keep records. I think like I grew up in an industry where we didn't necessarily keep a really good track of the temperatures of
well,
the,
we
the things
didn't.
I was making in pastry. But I understand the importance of it now more so than I did then. And I went to culinary school and I had years of experience. And I think when I started teaching, I realized how important it was and what a big step we were missing in the restaurants.
But I think again, it's one of those things like we didn't know what we didn't know, right? Like
Yeah.
again, we used to use asbestos and lead paint. Oh God, imagine using that now, like on the regular. Like, we didn't use seatbelts, right? Like we didn't wear helmets, and now everyone in there, like it just it's so now it's like our job, right? Like do better. Like we know now that we need to do better, so do better. Just saying we always did it that way doesn't make it okay, right? So how do we do better? We lean back and we say, hey, do better. Like that's the whole point here. Like, and that's really what it comes, well, in my mind, what it comes down to. And I think that if we can make it easy and intuitive, the easier it is for people behind us to do
Absolutely.
better, right? And there are tools to make it easy and intuitive, right? But if we don't remind people nicely without being total like food safety Nazis, then it's a different story, right? There are ways around it, but I think there's just a lot to be said. But I think that whether it's norovirus, whether it's cyclospora, whether it's E. coli, like, there are things that we can do as consumers, as end users, as restaurateurs, as operators to kind of reduce the risk overall so that we are an inherently healthier population.
Love it.
Totally agree.
Love it.
Totally agree. Well, thank you so much for talking all about these wonderful things,
All these
including,
smoothies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just diarrhea. It's just diarrhea.
Yep.
All right.
But we really appreciate it. This was great and very helpful.
Sorry, I know I go off on tangents. I don't mean to. Well, I don't mean to. You guys
It was
know
great.
That's perfect.
How this happens. All right, let me know.